Welcome, dear listener, and thank you for joining me for this special Halloween edition of Dead Hand Radio. I'm your host, Andrew Hall. What we're about to embark on throughout these coming days leading up to Halloween is a series of interviews with people from all walks of life who've experienced some of the most harrowing, spine-chilling tales you've ever heard. We're talking ghost stories, haunted buildings, cursed lands, myths, legends, and lore, the likes of which many have never heard before. Some of my guests are new, most are returning visitors of the show, and have agreed to share with us, in some cases for the first time ever, their personal experiences of unexplained and hair-raising stories from beyond the veil. Consider this your final warning. Those who choose to proceed may have their sanity challenged, question reality, or lose their mind with fear from these tales of the unknown and unexplained. And now, the Dead Hand Radio Halloween Special.
This is Cindy Vasko, urban explorer, photographer, and you're listening to Dead Hand Radio.
Hi, Cindy. Welcome back to Dead Hand Radio, and thanks for joining me on this special Halloween edition of the podcast. How have you been since we last spoke?
Pretty well, hanging in there like everybody else is doing right now, trying to make the best of the situation, but looking forward to a horizon.
You do the best you can during the times that you're in.
And people have been in worse situations, so.
Oh, by far.
Yes,
Yeah.
So we really can't complain too much. We just have to plug through it, and we will.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. Have you been able to get out and do any shooting since we last talked?
Yes, urban exploring, because that's a solitary event. So, and I've been to some. I've been to one or two shoots with larger groups of people. We just took precautions, so it was fine.
Have you been able to do any of your events?
No, everything's canceled. Everything. They're big events with lots of people, so everything is canceled. And
that's really your bread and butter for as far as income, right?
It's very ominous right now. My photographer friends are suffering greatly because of that.
Well, just an FYI, I know of a couple of local photographers here that shoot newborns.
Yes.
Newborn portrait, and that is exploding. And people
is it really?
Oh yeah. In this area, it is anyway. Not sure how that would be, but then you have to have your own studio. You have to have your own props and things like that. You have to be really patient with the children.
Yes. That's true. And equipment is very expensive. My friend has beautiful lighting. She has a nice suite of lighting equipment, but that's one thing I haven't done too much of, portrait photography. So.
I guess I could have led with the concept, since this is a Halloween special.
Yes.
We could have started talking about the reality of the horror show that we're living in right now, right?
Yes, I know. It's very appropriate this year, isn't it?
Although, I try to keep things on a positive note and try not to harp on the negativity that we're experiencing right now.
Because we have enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody's talking about that. I want to bring a little bit of lightness.
Levity, yes.
Even though, some of the stuff I talk about is pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Did you hear my Cold War 2.0 episode with
Yes.
JJ? Yeah.
Yes, that was fabulous.
Oh,
I
thank you.
listened to it yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
it was great. Yeah,
was a
it
fun
was
conversation.
a lot of different turns in that. I really enjoyed it,
Thank you.
and the perspectives of the overseas perspective was interesting.
Yeah.
I loved it very much.
That's has been one of the greatest rewards of this podcast is talking to people in different parts of the world and seeing how things are with them.
Yes, because we lose sight of that here. We become so absorbed with our own situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that I find in talking with new people is you might have heard me say this before, but it just still blows my mind how creative and interesting people are.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting and delightful to listen to those perspectives.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what a misanthrope is?
Yes.
So I am kind of a borderline misanthrope.
Yes,
I
I think
really
we
have
all are.
I really have a negative perspective on humanity, but
Sometimes I do too.
my opinion on that is really starting to change by talking to all these interesting people.
Yes. Yeah, the more you reach out and branch out, that it does change your perspective.
Right.
So does traveling. That always did it for me.
Yeah, and see, I always traveled with a companion. I never did it really solo. So, and
Yeah, I did it solo a few years ago. I really enjoyed it.
I bet you really get a chance to kind of stretch your wings. And
yeah, I went to Africa by myself, and that was just kind of a life-changing experience.
Really, was it
was
like
fabulous.
A photography?
It was. I went. Yes, I went on a safari, but I went by myself. I met up with the group, of course, because you can't safari solo, like on your own in a vehicle. You have to go
Good
with a
luck,
group.
yeah.
Yeah, but it was amazing. It really opened my eyes to how our world is. It was shocking.
Yeah.
It was absolutely shocking.
In a good way or
in a good way? In a good way. Yeah, it was fabulous. It made me appreciate so much more of what I have.
Yeah, and did you get a chance to see some of the wildlife?
Yes, lots of it. It was amazing, and you're feet away from it.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was the best trip I ever took.
It's one thing to see those animals inside of a closed,
right,
enclosed whatever.
Yeah, I saw some things I didn't want to see as well, but that's the way nature is. So you have to
like
take
poaching
the
and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, hunts, animals, hyenas hunting gazelles and catching them, and
right. Wow.
Yeah, it was brutal, but
that's nature, though. I mean,
yes, I know. It's what has to be.
Especially in the U.S., I think we're shielded from a lot of that, unless you watch nature documentaries. But
exactly,
yeah,
and saw how people live. That was shocking as well. 70% don't have electricity.
To me, those type of events where you see nature hunting nature, there's a sense of awe and beauty to it in my mind.
It is. It's amazing.
It is. So the reason for this episode is because I wanted to give you an opportunity to share some of your spooky stories. And I know that you've been in some really
brutal,
I guess, scary situations.
Yes.
I'd love to hear about that.
Okay.
If you are willing to share.
Absolutely. I have some, I do have a few experiences with my abandoned excursions. They're kind of lame compared to what the lore is out to the public and what I've spoken to other people about, but they're still unexplained nevertheless, and they're still weird to me.
Well, feel free to tie it in with the lore or mythology that you've heard.
And the history of the place is that kind of what prompts a lot of the lore. It's very brutal history to some of these places. So
please enlighten me with your darkness.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm an urban explorer, as you know, and I'm always asked if I encounter paranormal encounters as I walk through the derelict sites that I visit. I can probably say no, because once I step foot inside an abandonment, focused on my photographic compositions, and but I'm keen to unwanted sounds. But that mostly applies to human activity inside the building. We never want to run into people. And my mind doesn't wander to unexplained events, because if I did so, I probably would end my crazy adventures in urbexing. It would probably scare me so much that I wouldn't go back. But there's plenty of weird found in derelict buildings, absent the encouragement of perceived unexplained phenomena, attempting to piggyback on my psyche. But nevertheless, 45% of Americans believe in ghosts and demons, and that's why inquiring minds always want to know about any spectral engagements I encounter. Because everyone has a ghost story, and I've had a few unexplained experiences in my urbex travels. And although they're lame compared with the paranormal lore associated with some of the sites I explored, my unexplained experiences are still a little bit weird, because haunted sites and probably most abandoned buildings, everyone I've practically been into, push buttons that trigger feelings of dread, and it's always unclear what awaits someone that visits these places. When you go inside an abandonment, they're extremely dark, and you have to be very wary of navigating dark interiors, walking on sketching floors, and you see spider webs that are so thick and opaque they appear like fabric draped from the ceiling to the floor. But still, we never want to run into other humans. Forget about ghosts; it's people we dread. But absent the genuine active signs of life within a structure, to view former life signs suddenly interrupted and frozen in time via artifacts left behind, this only amplifies the fear factor. And vacated places deliver a sense of the uncanny, of something not quite right, crying out for an explanation of its helter-skelterness. And to open the door into silence of an abandonment is to feel the absolute emptiness of a place where occupants have departed. It's a very strange feeling. And all of us are fascinated by the perception of a hidden story. And sometimes it's easy to turn to the paranormal for an account of these abnormal perceptions. But the urban explorer, and not unlike the ghost hunter, attempts to fill in these voids of information. And I recently finished my West Virginia book, and West Virginia is a standout with haunted legends. The mountain state seems to have ghosts along every street if one reads accounts. When I did my research, it seems like every site was vying for the most ghosts per square foot. And some of the bandit sites that I visit clamored for the most horrific stories. And I visited some pretty rough places like the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, the West Virginia State Penitentiary. There was a amusement park that was very creepy. And even the beautiful town of Harper's Ferry is just steeped in ghostly history on every street. So everyone has a ghost story. And I visited Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston, TALA for short. It's a massive 240,000 plus square foot sandstone structure, and it sits on a property of 666 acres, which always begs the question.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, could the first owners purchase one or more less acre? Because a 666 acre footprint only adds more darkness to the site's very storied history.
Yeah, donate an acre, man.
Yes.
Change that number.
Exactly. I didn't know that when I visited it. I learned that when I started doing research on the chapter, and was kind of surprised to see that. It could be happenstance or not, I don't know. But this facility was built in the late 1800s, and it paused during the Civil War and then resumed completion in 1881. And it originally allowed for 250 patients but at its capacity apex in 1949, it held a gravely overcrowded population of 2,600. It had a reputation for being very violent and unsafe, had reports of patients killing each other. And in 1949, a journalist provided firsthand accounts of the appalling conditions. Patients were sleeping on freezing floors due to lack of furniture and heat. Overtaxed workers were unable to keep up with the sanitation burdens. Tala's once beautiful, sunny, and sparkling windows were covered with grime and just added to the freezing interior temps. Patients with whom the orderlies deemed unable to control were locked in cages in open areas in attempts to allow more bedroom space for Tala's less problematic inhabitants. And probably the most disturbing thing was that Tala was a training ground for experimental lobotomies.
Wow.
Ice pick lobotomies. The facility closed in 1994 after some investigations forced pressure for the institution to close. And in the late 1800s, people didn't have many rights, especially women. It was pretty easy to get shoved in there, and often for life. Ill treatment by a husband could get a woman committed, along with, say, if she inherited money, or if the husband preferred his mistress, he didn't always come back for his wife. But male patients didn't have it easy either, and anyone could be admitted for a number of situations such as seduction, bad whiskey, indigestion, laziness, and reading too many novels.
Wow.
Yeah, and methods of abuse.
I know a couple people in our post-apocalyptic community that would be committed.
Yeah, and the laziness factor too. That's a very wide berth too.
Wow.
Yeah, and the abuse was just rampant. They had ice water baths, bloodletting, confinement, cages, electroshock therapy, and the ice pick lobotomies is what Tala is really noted for. Dr. Walter Freeman, he's noted as the father of the lobotomy, and shoved an ice pick through a patient's orbital socket and into their brain. And in some cases, it was thought to calm the patient, but in almost all cases, it rendered the patient permanently brain damaged or dead. And in the early 50s, within a 2-week period, he performed over 225 ice pick lobotomies. And so given all this history, it's not surprising that Tala is considered a hotbed for paranormal activity. There are lots of apparition sightings, unexplainable voices and sounds, and other paranormal activity reported by guests and staff, as well as the TV paranormal investigators, such as those on Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters Academy, Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters, Paranormal Challenge, all those groups of people. And I had 3 experiences. I've been there twice. The first time I went there, I met a friend at the site before we were supposed to enter the building. And I was going with the group that was going to investigate the abandoned structures in back of the main Kirkbride unit, which holds tours for people. And she was going on the ghost tour there. So we were going to separate once we got inside. But before we went inside, I decided to walk around and take some exterior shots. And I was doing fine until I got to this one building, and my camera, my D4, was only 3 months old. So it was brand new. It was fresh. Nothing should go wrong with it. And every time I would press the shutter, I got error messages all the time. I couldn't get it to work. I walked away from the building and it was fine. So I never got any photos of this one particular building. And that was one building that none of us were able to go into. So I don't know what that's about, but it was very strange.
So in that, you said you were never able to go into that building. What?
The docent of, see, they have it's a big campus of several buildings, and the Kirkbride building is where they kept the general patient population. It's a huge architectural design of so many asylums from the 1800s that is a long hallway, and they have these wings coming off the long hallway. Look, if you look at an area view, it looks like a bat wing, And that's how it's designed. And it's a beautiful design. There are lots of windows and air breezes flowing through it. And it was supposed to help patients recover. The problem is it was only designed for a couple hundred patients. And then shortly after they opened, they swell to thousands of patients, and there's no room. So all those features, those architectural features, didn't help a single patient. So that's the building where they have the general tours for the public, and then they have these facilities in the back of it for the more violent criminals. I'm sorry, patients, because they used to take jailed people and put them in this building behind the asylum.
Yeah,
And,
for reading too many books, right?
Yes, and bad whiskey. And they have some of the operating rooms back there, and the women's ward is back there, and
So basically, it was off. It was not part of the tour, and you were there on a guided tour.
it was an administration building. It was just it was a big building. It was huge, but they said they have Halloween events every year, and they said they store their Halloween decorations in this building, and it's not interesting. But I couldn't find much about the building other than that it was the administration building. So I don't know what's going on in that building, but I could not get photos of that building for some reason. And it wasn't that architecturally interesting, so it didn't bother me that much. And I didn't think anything of it. But then, when I went inside the building in the back of the Kirkbride unit, I was walking through it, and there was a very uninteresting hall. Nothing interesting about it, but I felt compelled to take a photo of it. And it was dark, there was no light. It was just a brick hall. And I shot it and walked away. And then when I came home and processed my photos, there were these unexplained light streaks on it. And there was absolutely no ambient light whatsoever in that hallway. So I could not explain it. And it was still illuminated, but my camera can see better than I can see. So I didn't think anything of it. And there was looks like a shadow of a person crouching in the corner. I showed it to other people, and that's the first thing they noticed. I showed it to professional photographers, and they can't explain the light. So it's not interesting. It's grainy because it's an extremely high ISO. So it's got a lot of noise. So it's not an interesting photo, but it's interesting the fact that there are these two unexplained features on the image. And
Definitely.
yeah. And I did show it to my one friend, and the first thing she said was, it looks like a person is crouching in the corner. They're huddled, and it's a fearful looking.
It would be interesting
Mhm.
if you ever had the opportunity to go back and visit again.
I did go back the following year.
Well, what I'm thinking, and you may have already tried this, but set up a tripod and shoot a long exposure of that area.
Yeah. I went back the following year, and I did not shoot that hallway again because it wasn't interesting, and I didn't think, but I did have another weird experience in that facility. I was I went with just a photo group, and there were only 5 of us, and it was at the time that the person that organized the event, he has access to the buildings. So we went in the winter when they don't have tours. So we had the whole place to ourselves. It was fabulous.
Nice.
And there were only 5 of us. So at the end of my, we were there for 5 hours, I think 5 or 6 hours. And so at the end of my period, I was all alone. I was in the Kirkbride building. I saved that for last because the more interesting stuff I think is in the back, but I was wandering through that, and I was up on the 4th floor. I went from the 2nd to 3rd to 4th, and then I decided, well, it's getting close to when I have to leave, so I better get back down to the 1st floor and leave. And I couldn't get out. The doors were locked.
Whoa.
Yes. And I couldn't get out, so I walked down to the end of the hallway and went through the door to the 3rd floor. I couldn't get in the 3rd floor. Went down to the 2nd floor. I couldn't get in the 2nd floor. And so now I'm starting to panic because I I didn't know how I was going to get out. And I pulled out my phone to call my friend, and I didn't have a cell signal.
So is it pitch black minus your lighting?
No, not in that building. There's a lot of, it's a Kirkbride architecture design. So there are lots and lots of beautiful big windows everywhere. So
and
you
it was
have this
daytime?
natural, yeah, it was close to dusk. It was getting close to dusk. So that's why I was starting to panic too. And it was, and I just couldn't get out anywhere. And the end hallways, the middle hallways, everything was locked. So I finally walked to the far end and got out on the first floor. It was because I was wandering through that building for maybe a good hour and a half, and I was able to access each floor without any problem whatsoever.
That's weird.
Yeah, I know. But it's also possible, I don't know. I never asked him. I should ask him if he was closing up, like shutting things down a little, because most people had left already and I was still hanging around. Maybe he was locking everything. I don't know.
That would have been quite unnerving to be locked in there for the night.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the weekend. Well, actually the whole winter, because nobody's there.
Wow.
During the winter. And you know, I have spoken to people that work there, and they have a lot of very strange accounts. They hear squeaky wheels rolling along the tiled hallways. They hear banging pipes. They see ghosts walking down the halls or even through the walls. And my friend who was organizing this group saw something like that one time. He said he was there waiting for the, I think it was after everybody had left for one of his little photo tours, his photo events. And he was sitting at the end of the hall and he saw somebody walking across from one room to another. And he was saying, you know, they have to go. It's past the hour. They need to go home. So he went out to get him. And when he went into the other room, there was nobody there.
Wow. So
And
wait, the person telling you this story was a worker or somebody doing
no,
a tour?
he's a photographer, a friend of mine, and he has photo access. He can arrange photo events for this place. He has special access, so he can get into the building at certain times of the year to run his little events, and we can shoot to our heart's content without and in areas where tourists don't go, because the tourists are allowed to go into the Kirkbride unit, but not the buildings in the back, where some of the nasty stuff was done. And one of the docents at the facility says she has long hair, and she says there's someone, a spirit in the building that doesn't like long hair or has a thing for long hair, and her hair gets yanked here and there. She walks down the hall every once in a while. And there's a ghost there named Ruth, who's said to hate men while she was alive and used to throw things at them, and now in her ghostly form still throws things at male visitors. So, and there's the most common one is an apparition of a girl named Lily. She wears a white dress and she appears to be about 9 years old. And it's believed that she was a girl whose mother gave birth to her while at the asylum. And she died at 9 years old after spending every day of her life confined inside this building. And she's said to talk, to roll balls along the floor, switch on flashlights, play a music box, and giggles. That's observers have described as often sweet and horrifying at the same time. And they have these balls and toys and candy in some of the rooms, just in a corner for, I guess, that purpose. So,
that is a creepy story. So
yeah.
how true, how much truth is there in that story?
They have some accounts of
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The story of the little girl being born and raised until she was 9 in that facility. How true?
Yeah,
how much truth is there?
They have, you know, the records that they have. They do have a record of that, but it's not. They don't have a whole lot of details about her. I mean, I don't think they know how she died. but that she was part of the facility.
Wow. So
Yeah.
she really existed. She was born in the
Yeah.
facility. There's a
Yeah.
record of it. She was
Yeah.
raised in the facility.
Yeah.
There's
And
witness accounts
Ruth.
of her.
Yeah. There's
That's
the what
insane.
about Ruth?
So
Yeah.
here's what I have
Hmm.
gathered from your description of this lunatic asylum.
Yeah.
The lunatics are not the people that are
Right.
occupying the residency. They're the people that are running the place.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, yes. I mean, the Dr. Freeman, the father of lobotomy, that was vicious. But a lot of times they were so understaffed. It was an incredibly impossible situation to control with the amount of patients, with 2,500 patients in a facility designed for 240, to have a staff to control that many patients. They didn't have the space, they didn't have the furniture, they didn't have the heat, they didn't have the clothes. They used to be a self-sufficient facility. They would make their clothes, they would farm the site, had a dairy farm, but after a few decades, it just got out of control quickly.
How many again did you say was at the apex of the
2,400.
so almost a little bit over 10 times the number of patients
Yes.
that were
Yes.
supposed to be there?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was. It's a very unfortunate. It was an unfortunate situation for everyone.
Well, you know what say the name of the reporter who did the story on that place.
Oh, what's his name? It was in 1949. It was the Pittsburgh Gazette article. I don't remember his name right now.
He was pretty instrumental in getting the investigation kicked off that closed that place down, right?
Well, it didn't close down until 1994.
Well, did they at least have some kind of reforms after he ran his story?
Well, during the 70s and well, they tried, but during the 70s and 80s, I don't know if you recall, there was a massive movement for deinstitutionalization.
Right. I
So
remember that.
a lot of people were just let loose without help.
Well, that was a tragedy in itself, but letting people out of those, unlivable situations was a good thing.
Yeah, it's a disaster in both ways, and it still is in many respects that way. But in the 90s, another Pittsburgh Gazette, I think it was a Pittsburgh Gazette investigation started highlighting additional problems, and then it closed in 94. So it's a creepy looking place. It's in the mountains and in a small community, and when you arrive at, there's this long driveway and this massive sandstone structure. I think the Kremlin is the only larger sandstone structure in the world. I think Tala is the second largest in the world. It's enormous, and it has this giant clock tower in the middle, and it just has an ominous aura about the place. And I always seem to go when it's a overcast, dark day.
Maybe it's always overcast and dark.
Maybe.
And supernaturally so. So, okay, couple of questions real quick.
Sure.
If somebody wants to see the photos that you shot, are they up on your website somewhere?
I do have a lot of, I do have some Tala photos on my website. I have albums of Tala on my Flickr site, so they can check those out there.
Okay.
I only have a few.
How do people get to that?
Well, it would be Cindy Vasko for Flickr.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Flickr.com /
Yes.
Cindy Vasko?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Or Vasko?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
you want to spell that?
My name. They can just search my name on Flickr and they'll find them.
And why don't you spell your last name so people know?
V as in Victor, Asko.
Okay. I'll put it in the show notes also.
Sure.
Now, the second question.
Mm-hmm.
How much stock do you, I know that your monkey mind doesn't want to accept the fact that there may be some otherworldly activity going on, but how much stock do you put into the stories that you've heard?
I do. Oh, you mean my personal experiences or what I've spoken to
No,
people
no,
about?
the stories that you've heard.
Oh yeah, no. Especially the people that I know. I would not question their veracity at all. They would have no reason to do that. Um,
As far as what they may be, not that they happen, but what that, what could explain those things.
I can be overly logical sometimes, but I also don't accept that there's nothing to it. I don't know. I can't explain it. Um,
You just don't want to freak yourself out and admit that there's probably real
yeah,
ghosts running around places that you've been in.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if I go down that road, if I start really believing that stuff, I probably would never step foot in an abandonment again because they are creepy as all get out. I mean, without ghosts. I mean, they're just terrifying sometimes. And I don't want to be thinking of that aspect.
I don't expect you to go in there and start doing seances or taking a Ouija board in there with you and all that stuff. But
Right.
yeah, when you're in a dark hallway, set up a tripod and do a long exposure once in a while and see what kind of weirdness comes out of
Yeah,
the.
I do. There are some weird lights that I get a lot of times in places, and they're usually in the most horrific historic places like prisons and asylums. I do see little orbs and things like that every once in a while, but I don't know if that's dust or sensor dust.
A lot of people really kind of scoff at the orbs because yeah, it could be dust or it could be lens flares, stuff
I
like
don't
that.
discount it either way. I mean, I just know too many people that I've had experiences with this phenomena that they wouldn't be making tall tales about it. They've really had experiences, and I can't explain the small things that happen to me either. So who knows?
Well, we've still got plenty of time. Do you have any other locations that you visited that left you feeling unsettled after your little excursion there?
Yeah, the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville is another creepy place I visited. It was originally built to be the consummate model of reform, but just 100 years after it was built, it went from holding ideal and noble objectives to being one of the worst institutions in the United States. It was a prison. It's a Gothic castle looking building. It's very imposing and dark, very dark stone and Gothic towers and very dark looking, emotionally as well. And it was built it opened in 1876 and it was built by the prisoners at the time. And it housed a total of, it was originally built this is another situation of crowdedness. This happens in prisons quite a bit. It was built for 480 prisoners. And by the 1930s, it housed a total of 2,400. And at times, 3 prisoners were assigned to one of the tiny 5x7 cells. And it has not had a nice history. Penitentiary guards were killed in a famous 1986 New Year's Day riot. It said, walking through this facility, it just sent shudders through my soul. And I've been in a lot of prisons. I know it's weird to say, but I've been in a lot of abandoned prisons, and this one is hands down the most disturbing one I've been in. Like I said, the cells are very, very small. They're 5x7, and I even stood inside one to get a feel for the cramped space. And there was barely enough room between the edge of the bunks and the wall for a person to stand and face a barred door. And I was instantly claustrophobic inside that open cell block room. And I was unable to comprehend how difficult it would be to reside in one of those cages for years. And they had 2 bunks, but they put 3 in a cell for a long time. And one prisoner had to sleep on the floor while 2 slept on those tiny little bunks. And the winters and summers were horrific. They had extremely cold temperatures in the winter and steaming hot temperatures in the summer. Sometimes the cell blocks would be 120 degrees. I remember talking to the docent there, and she said that they didn't have any heating or cooling in that prison, but I was never able to confirm that after the fact in any research I had, but that's what she told me. And there are a lot of accounts of how cold and hot it was, and that overcrowding just you could sense the sense of misery inside those walls. And in the Department of Justice identified it as one of the most violent prisons in the United States, and at its closure, I think it claimed 995 deaths, with 36 considered homicides, as well as the loss of 3 correctional officers. And suicide, murder, and violent punishments contributed to the deaths of hundreds of inmates that maybe weren't accounted for, because there was very poor record keeping of that place. And so they don't really know the number of inmates who died violent deaths there while incarcerated at this prison. So there are a lot of hot spots in this prison from what I researched. They're in the chapel, the shower cages, the death row. There's an underground recreational room called the Sugar Shack, which really, really disturbed me. It was once infamous for illegal gambling, drug deals, rape, fighting, and murder. And visitors in this room often hear people arguing, talking, and whispering. Others heard unexplained noises, felt cold spots. And it's supposed to be the Sugar Shack is in the basement that you access from the recreational yard. And the whole basement area around that is said to be haunted by a maintenance man who once worked there. He was said to have spied on the prisoners and reported any news or infractions to the guards. So in retaliation, he was stabbed several times while he was in the bathroom. And after his death, his ghost is said to wander around in the basement area, and some people have reported equipment malfunctions. I had a little equipment malfunction, I think, when I was in the Sugar Shack. I visited the prison on a early spring day, and it was a very rainy day. It was torrential. And there were only 6 people that showed up for this photo access event. So I walked through the prison, and I didn't see one person for 3 hours. It's
Wow.
such a big prison. Yeah. So I found the Sugar Shack out in the recreational yard.
Just a quick side note. That sounds like an urbexer's heaven.
It was. Yeah. It was fabulous. And it was I had the whole place to myself. But once I got into this Sugar Shack area, I kind of wished I wasn't all by myself. It's like I said, you enter into a subterranean area, and there's a long hallway, and the wall is, I'm pretty sure this is graffiti by the prisoners, because they paint murals and did a lot of artwork on the walls. But this particular wall was just covered in bloody handprints with dripping red paint from top to bottom, just covered with.
That's creepy.
Yeah. And the other side is all wired. It's like heavy chicken wire. So you walk down this hallway in a slant, you go into this room, and there's absolutely no ambient lighting whatsoever. It's pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of your face. So I had my light painting torch that I pulled out, and it's not very bright. I don't use a bright one because I don't want hot spots when I light paint a room. So it's pretty dim, and I'm looking around, and there's recreational equipment like ping pong tables, and starting to paint a section. And I put new batteries in before I went to the prison, but my torch started to flicker and dim. So I started to freak out because this is a pretty big room, and it's got a low ceiling, a real low ceiling, and I decided to leave and put new batteries in, and I just had a hard time finding my way out because it just blacked out on me. And once I got out, I was putting new batteries in it, and I figured, nah, I'm not going back in there. I got one shot, and that's it.
So I have 2 words for you of advice. Okay, just 2 words: backup flashlight.
Yes, I know. Yeah, you know what? That's absolutely true. That's what I did. Stuff. Yeah, it was a creepy place. And so
That's a good story, though.
It was just it was a very the murals on the wall inside were cheerful. But I don't know. It just had a very the air seemed really heavy to me in there. It's very, I don't know, because the ceiling was low. I don't know. The air seemed heavy. I put batteries in once I got onto that little hallway with the bloody handprints. And I thought, nah, I don't need any more there.
It probably worked out for the best that you didn't have the backup, because you might have stuck around a little bit too long if you had, right?
Yeah, and I did start to think that I am all alone in this section, and I haven't seen anybody in 3 hours. So
That's wild.
And I'm
So
clumsy.
these what did you call them? Photo access tours?
Yeah. West Virginia State Penitentiary has them several times a year, and they just opened the prison for photographers. It's a
Cool.
fabulous opportunity to shoot a prison on, just, and you have the whole place to yourself. It's fabulous.
That sounds like a blast. No,
It is.
why don't they have some kind of communication system, like handheld radios that they
I
give you
don't
guys
know.
talk to?
I don't know. I guess because
Hey, I'm lost, man. Can somebody come find me?
yeah, they probably think because you're urban explorers that you
Okay.
know your way around these places.
Right.
But they do have tours. They have regular tours as well.
Yeah, but that's not
public
as
tours.
fun as going
No,
off on
it's
your
not.
own, man.
No. And and when I go on these places, I watch the crowd, and I go the opposite way the crowd goes. So I have the whole place to myself. I always go in the opposite direction so I don't get stuck in groups.
That sounds like, so how did you find out that these type of tours exist?
I research like crazy for places like this. I'm always researching opportunities to explore.
The only way that I've been able to find locations is by driving around, literally.
Yeah, I have a list of where I start with that people post, and then I go from there. But usually if you find a list like that, they're pretty destroyed, because a public list of places like this, because it's secure, they have security on them. People can't go in and destroy them. But places that are technically not accessible, if they're on a list, they tend to get destroyed, and that just makes me insane. And my ire just jumps to a new level when I just don't like. Yeah, I don't like that.
There's a difference in my mind. There's a difference between graffiti artists going to a location and painting murals and putting nice artwork up there, and people going to intentionally vandalize, destroy, mutilate, and deface.
Yeah, and I see too much of that.
There's even people that go in and destroy the murals that these artists have painstakingly went in there and paint. It's just,
that breaks my heart.
I don't understand why people have to be so destructive, and they think it's funny.
I know, or they break the windows and the furniture, and they just destroy everything, and it's just.
I think we talked about it at length on our previous conversation.
Yes.
Previous podcast.
Yes, I think so. I know the like you were talking about it in your podcast I listened to yesterday about the tunnels under Vegas. I've always wanted to go there, but I
wouldn't go in those tunnels, man.
Yeah, I know. I would like to do a photojournalist essay on that, but
they're not. They're
not safe.
They're not safe.
No,
at all, and it's not because of creatures
No,
or
no, it's
spirits
because of
because of humans.
yes, I know. That's what we never want to run into when we're in abandonments. You never want to run into humans, and I've run into too many.
The other thing that kind of trips me out is that we don't get a lot of rain in the desert, but when it rains, those tunnels get flooded
I know that scares me
and
because
people's
even when
homes
you're out
get
in the
washed away.
desert,
People die
yeah,
every year in floods because they live in
yeah,
those
hikers
areas.
too. So,
Okay, so those were some great stories. Did you have anything else you wanted to share?
well, I did. There's one more site that was very creepy. And I spoke to the owner of the property, who's had some very amazing experiences. It's an abandoned amusement park in West Virginia, and it's built on in Native American burial grounds.
Oh,
Do you want to hear about that one?
well, yeah.
Yeah, it's got a very long history and a very bloody past.
Okay, there's a term in journalism called burying the lead.
Yes,
I think you left the best for last.
I think so. I think
Okay,
so.
we're gonna have to. I think I'm gonna have to entitle this episode something to do with the Native American burial grounds,
Yes, yes,
just so people
yes,
listen all the way to the end so they get this one. Okay.
yeah. Okay, this is far down in West Virginia. It's called Lake Shawnee Amusement Park, and it's a tiny little amusement park that has a bloody past dating to the late 1700s. And there are so many accounts noting hauntings, unexplained happenings, and paranormal tales because of there have been untimely deaths of 6 children on this property, as well as the recent discovery of Native American graves. So in the 1700s, there was the Clay family emigrated from Europe and purchased property for the establishment of a home and farm in this area. West Virginia wasn't in existence at this time, but the land was already home to Native Americans. And historical accounts maintain that the family patriarch, Mitchell Clay, set out on a hunting expedition in 1783. And while he was away, a group of 11 Native Americans killed 2 of his children, took a 3rd child captive, and burned him alive. So when he returned, he was enraged and corralled a group of other settlers, and they retaliated and killed several Native Americans. And the legend asserts that the restless spirits of these harrowing experiences seeped into the land on and around Lake Shawnee. Jump ahead 550 years later, in the 1930s, a man named Conley Snido, I think that's his name, I think that's how you say his name, he was unaware of the history, but he envisioned financial opportunities with the development of an amusement park because of the great expansion of West Virginia's coal region. So he constructed a small amusement park, had a swing ride, a Ferris wheel, a dance hall, and a pond with canoes. But several freak accidents occurred and killed children during amusement park operations. 2 boys drowned. The park closed in 1966 when a truck backed into a swing ride and killed a young girl. The truck was delivering drinks to the park, and while it was turning around, it backed into the girl. And the park closed after this last incident. So all this.
What year did it close?
66, the first time. Yeah. And so he sold all his equipment, and the park was just, it was gone. And then in the 1980s, the current owner, Gaylord White, he purchased the property with plans for another amusement park. So he set out on a search for a swing ride and a Ferris wheel. He went to New Jersey, bought the swing ride, and upon delivery of it to Lake Shawnee, he realized that the ride's serial numbers were the same numbers from the original park ride.
What?
It was the same one, yes.
Okay, yeah, dude, don't buy those, okay?
He didn't know it when he bought it. He didn't know it until he got it. He didn't know that the serial number was the same until he got it home. He added a Ferris wheel, which was not the same, paddle boats, and a stage for his amusement park. And he opened it in 87 and had 3 really good years of business. But after 3 years, business dropped significantly and his insurance premiums escalated. So he drew the curtain on the amusement park and instead held fishing tournaments on the lake and but wanted to add a few more recreational activities on the property. So in the early 90s, he was bulldozing a tract of land for mud bogging, off-road mud racing. And he made a startling find while bulldozing the land. He found Native American artifacts, arrowheads, pottery, and pots. So he called in an archaeological team from Marshall University to check it out. And they spent several years at Lake Shawnee, and they uncovered lots of graves. But they stopped digging when they found child graves. And they estimate about 3,000 are buried on the site.
Wow.
So because of this, the White family decided not to build anything else on the site, and they now consider it sacred territory. But he does have ghost hunters come in, and they claim to hear laughs of children. And the current owner affirms some significant sightings. He sees the sight of he sees a small girl wandering around the grounds at night, complete with the bloody pink dress, the same dress that the girl wore when that truck backed into her. Discovery Channel had a group of investigators there, and one of their investigators got stuck in an old ticket booth. The woman went into a panic, and she got so panicked she had to go to the hospital. She couldn't get out and was yelling for help. And it was just a push door. It wasn't even a locked door. Visitors have seen orbs, apparitions. One visitor took a photograph that showed a shape behind a stone monument that marks the location where the two original children of the settlers were buried. From the 1700s. So they said that the White family had surveillance video and shows mysterious things happening at a concession stand. And Mr. Gaylord White said once he felt a weight on his shoulders while mowing the field with his tractor, and he didn't know what it was. So he turned around and saw the little girl from the swing standing there. And he said he wasn't scared, but he said, he got off and said, "If you like the tractor, I'm going to give it to you." And he's never moved a tractor again. And so it's just, I mean, I just thought of this. I had a really weird experience driving to the place. It's a 5-hour drive from my house. So while I was driving, I was making really good time. So I decided to take a little detour and visit a covered bridge along the way. It's called the Humpback Bridge. And I did that, and then I got back on my road to Lake Shawnee, and my navigation system in my car was new at the time. It was only like a year old, and navigation's always worked perfectly. And all of a sudden it just switched the route suddenly, and it took me up this insane dirt gravel road up a side of a mountain. And I thought, where the heck is this taking me? And it wasn't even a marked road. And I'm driving, and there weren't any guardrails, and the road's getting more narrow, and it's curvy, and there's ruts. And so I made the decision to back up and go, just reroute, because it was terrifying. It was a steep.
Was it like a one lane?
Yes. And it was getting more narrow, and there wasn't any guardrail on the side, and it was steep. I could see the bottom. And I just had a very hard time backing up because it was curvy, and it was I was on about a mile, I guess. So it took forever, but I was absolutely terrified. And I got back on the highway and just started my navigation again, and it just took me right to the place. And the amusement park isn't far off the major interstate. So I don't know what happened, but it was weird. And I visited, I was the only one there. They said they have a Halloween event, and they opened it to any photographers that wanted to come on the Sunday after Halloween. So I was the only one that showed up, and they were taking down their Halloween decorations. Most of them were down already, but it was a pretty sunny day, and but it's still a creepy looking place with the Ferris wheel covered in vines and shrubs and The swing set's creepy. There's not much there, but it's a pretty dark looking place when you see these rusted metal hulks standing up that once was a sign of laughter and happiness.
Well, it definitely sounds like a place I would love to visit.
Yeah, the lore is fabulous. I mean, the owner swears that he saw these things, and so does a lot of other people do, and a lot of the ghost hunters have claimed that too.
Now, the 3 stories or 3 locations that you shared with us, did you document these in your book that you mentioned?
I do. I talk about the history. I do talk about a little bit about how people always ask me about spectral events. I don't go into that too much in my book because it's a historical account. So I talk about the history, but I talk about the darkness of the history.
Are all 3 of these locations showcased in the book that you mentioned? Okay.
Yes.
And what's the name of that book?
It's Abandoned West Virginia.
Okay. And how can people find that if they're interested?
It's coming out in 2 weeks, November 9th, I think it is.
Okay, so it'll be probably a week or week and a half after this airs. It's going to air next week.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, and it can be pre-ordered, but
from what, Amazon, or do they have to go to
Amazon,
your website?
all the online bookstores, Google and Barnes and Noble. Yeah.
So that's great that this is coming out soon, but people that are interested in your photography and reading about the other locations you've visited, you've done how many books prior to this?
Okay, I'm writing 13. I have, let's see, I just sent one in last week, 2 coming out. So I have 9 are going to be out by middle of January. And then I have 4 after that. So so 7 are out now, and 9 will be out by January.
So you have 7 books that are out. 1 is coming out in a week and a half or so.
Yes.
November 9th, and then another one is going to release in January.
Yes.
Great. And then you'll have 3 more after that?
Well, there'll be 4 after that.
Okay.
Because I just sent one in last week.
Great.
So
good.
Working on the last 3.
And they're all available on Amazon in hardcover?
They're soft. They're
paperback?
Soft. Yes.
Or ebook?
Yeah, no, they don't have ebooks, unfortunately. I don't know why, but they don't.
I think this is a good place to close it out. I got to get going on some other stuff. All right. Well, Cindy, thank you for sharing your stories with me for this special edition of Dead Hand Radio, this Halloween special. It's always great talking to you, and I appreciate you taking so much of your time out of your day to come and hang out with me for a little bit, share your stories, and creep some people out, hopefully.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the little discussion.
All right, Cindy, I'll talk to you soon.
Sure.
Bye-bye.